I didn't make a video since I just wanted to test the different compounds and how they reacted with plant material and a simple alcohol extraction. But I'll be working on trying to do a semi-quantitative amount of the alkaloids of the cacti without doing TLC. You just place the reagent into the test tube, and you'll have a, let's say, 200 or 300 grams or milligrams of the dried plant material and a gram or a milliliter of the reagent, and you would try to do a spectrometer it won't be exact obviously, but you could do a rough estimate on the quantity, at least if it's more than the other, with an image. When I was trying to do the same process using TLC, I would have to take a photo and then enter the program ImageJ, and it's a more advanced analysis tool for images, and you can use it as a spectrometer, and then you can quantify the amount of color intensity of each test tube. This is from the 9-helene reagent. I should probably use gloves, but I'm not allergic or sensitive to it, so it doesn't cause me issues. But if I start doing more experiments, I should wear a glove. But in any case, I was actually surprised by the reaction on the Frillii, I think this is it. This was the strongest reaction from Trichoceres and Lophophora. I got some small cuttings and just chopped them up, and this one had the strongest reaction. It actually turned purple, and I doubt it's from the pigment since it only reacted after the 9-helene reagent was added. I did a hot water soak for around 10 minutes, and it was the darkest color. And the Trichoceres and Lophophora, they did react, but rather than a purple, which is common with the TLC plates when you spot, the color of the Lophophora and the Trichoceres was a bluish color. It was fairly faint since it wasn't a strong concentrate, and in the future, since this may turn out worthwhile to experiment more, I'll try to do a what's it called, a gauge, or I'll do it a 1 milliliter or 1 milligram, 2 milligrams, 3 milligram solutions, and photograph their color, so I could try to have a rough estimate on the quantitative amount of the mescaline in the plant material. So I did a very rough attempt this first round. I did a simple ethanol soak of the plant material that was dried, and then I took out 1 milliliter and applied it directly to another test tube that had the reagent, and I did a 1-to-1, so it's 1 milliliter the reagent that's concentrated. I could probably do less since I did a fairly concentrated solution. I could probably use half a milliliter or so, and I did that for each of the plants. I used the control, which was this. I wasn't expecting a reaction at all, so maybe there's amino acids or something else in this plant. I'll try to do a TLC on this in the future. And I also used a mammillaria. I have a few of these cuttings. I use this as a control as well. There was a small reaction, but you can basically say it's just from the other I guess amino acids or something. But this one was very, very dark purple. So I'm quite interested to try this in a TLC plate. My TLC runs, I did it recently for the seersucker and the psychotria that I suspect is active, and they both did not show a reaction of the expected reaction at the RF value at 50. There was no purple stain, so I suspect there's no idle alkaloids. But I'll let it grow more and we'll see from there. And I also did another one besides mescaline. I did a different TLC on this chacrona. It's Kumblokia. It's like a smaller variation with the leaves. And I also used two bottom leaves from this chariponga. And this chariponga had the strongest reaction, which was kind of expected. And it actually turned red from, I guess, the concentration. I'm not entirely sure. But this was the strongest reaction from all of the plants. And for the control, I used an orchid leaf, and it showed a yellow-orange reaction, which usually indicates no reaction, I guess. The reaction on this chacrona, the Psychotria viridis, I thought was fairly low, but it is still pretty small, and I don't take care of it too well. But the chariponga was very reactive. I have not done a TLC on this. I plan to in the future. But the reaction was also very strong out of all the plants, similar to the Frilia. This one was a strong red color. And I also used, this one. This was the one that I suspected could be active, and it still may be, just at a very low concentration. And this one is another Psychotria, and it's also suspected to be active. And I did do an extraction in the past on this one, but it was a minuscule yield, but there was a yield of something. What it was exactly, I can't tell, because it was like around 1 milligram or so, so it wasn't very definitive. But yeah, I am very interested in doing this vial quantitative experiment. I've seen some videos on YouTube that they do it for a known compound, so this wouldn't be used for an unknown compound, but for a known compound, you just don't know the dilution. You can get a rough estimate based on a graph of the color intensity, and I'm fairly sure you can apply this to the DMT and mescaline containing plants to do a semi-quantitative usable value for your plants. I also recently saw on Reddit someone produce a product that was fairly similar to this idea. They used it for quantitative estimates of psilocybin and psilocin in mushrooms, and they have a few other test kits. They also include a fairly cheap spectrometer. It was around $200. It's fairly out of my price range, but for those interested, I'll try to find a link as well and share it in this video. And I haven't read their protocol, but judging from their description and the photos they provide on how they do it, I'm fairly certain it's the exact same technique that I'm going to try to fix for a semi-quantitative measurement for my plants. So why would I want to do this? This would, if it works semi-reliable, I can do an experiment that I've been wanting to do for a while. It isn't viable for me to do since it would take a long time to do due to needing a certain biomass. I wanted to do a test where I harvest, let's say 4 in the morning, and then 8 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 8 o'clock. I would harvest the same clone, and I would see at what time of the day it had the highest yield. I suspect it would be late afternoon. Some people suspect it would be early in the morning. There's different reasons for that, but since you're on my channel, I'll just share my reasoning. The logic would be that since the mescaline and alkaloids in general usually are formed for defensive purposes and to relieve stress from the elements like sun and that whatnot, after the full day of full sun exposure and heat, the plant would be stressed, and to prevent stress from oxidation from the ROS system, it would do the processes, and the final step would be the mescaline, which would be a bioprotective measure for it. And then it would just recycle it after the night and use it in the morning for growth or other processes, and then it'll reaccumulate the next day. But that's just a theory, and if I could get this to work semi-reliably, I could do this test. I could just take, let's say, like half this rib and then dry it and run the test. I'll have to do a repeatable protocol so that it's semi-reliable, since I can always repeat it, and it'll be much easier than my TLC plates. The TLC extraction, or the TLC semi-quantitative measurement tool, is fairly reliable, but since I need to make my plates myself and it's not the greatest quality, I'm having a lot of frustration trying to do it reliably, and spotting for me is also difficult. And this would make it much easier, and I believe at least a bit more accessible. And if anyone else is interested in collaborating, just give your ideas, and yeah, hopefully this works out and we could do a lot more tests and experiments on a smaller scale, and if it shows any promise, you could just repeat it at a larger scale to verify the results. So yeah, that's what I have planned for now. I use this Peruvianus as the test, and like I mentioned, this was a lighter blue color and the Lophophora was a bit darker, and it showed some promise, but the Frillii was a big shocker on the reaction and the intensity of the reaction. And yeah, in the future I do have another experiment that I would like to do based on a suggestion from a subscriber. He's fairly well informed, and we were discussing precursors In the past, the community has suggested doping with tyrosine and dopa and all of that, dopamine. And he checked out the biosynthesis route and suggested to add the 3M, I think it's 3MP. It's basically a metabolite for dopamine, and it's just basically one step off, or two steps off of the final product. And it's a fairly obscure compound. You can probably find it online through some chemical providers, but the most accessible method to having access to that would be Opuntia pads. I originally thought of buying some pads, but I'm just going to use my bunny ears. They've been struggling a lot, but I think that's enough for at least one attempt. I have no idea if this variety actually produces the compound as well, or if it's a specific species or not. I don't know. But that'll be my next experiment. I'll be chopping this up since I don't like it too much and it's taking up space. I'll make a slurry out of it and then soak it with the Trichoceres experiment. I'll probably use this. I'll soak one, the other will be the control. And if there's even a minimal increase after, let's say, 30 minutes soaking with the Opuntia, and then a 2-week rest period for both, it may be worthwhile for someone else to reattempt it. If you're open to experimenting, I think it is a very viable option. It does make a lot of sense, and it's a fairly cheap compound that you can get. You could just buy Opuntia pads. Sometimes you can get a whole lot for free. And in theory, it should increase the biosynthesis of the mescaline. And that's it for now. Thanks for all the support and suggestions. You guys comment. And yeah, that's what I have planned in the future. I'm mainly going to start working on trying to do a quantitative measurement with the test tube, since it'll be much easier and quicker for me. And I'll probably need to wait until I do the extraction to have a pure compound again, so that I can try to do a reliable gauge or range for the color palettes.